You comfortable? Okay. So we'll just get straight into it. What's your name? Where are you from? And what do you do? all at your pace.
Yeah.
All at your pace.
Oh, we started here.
Totally all at your pace.
Kia ora whānau. My name is Megan and I'm from Island Bay in Wellington. I am a social worker and I have a lot of my work as well as social working has been in and around supporting those that have either buried their voice or feel they don't have a voice. I've teacher aided, I've worked in early childhood around little ones, I've worked in primary schools and high schools, I've worked in disability industry, and my own daughter has special needs as well. And I'm an advocate for voices when people are struggling.
That's awesome. And what made you want to share your story on the Let Me Speak campaign?
Yeah, I'm really passionate about those that have been abused, and I've been one who has been abused as a 8 and 9-year-old. I'll also be sharing a bit of a story of my own sister who's been abused as a different person, and my own daughter through a close family member.
So where does your story begin?
Begins in Island Bay, 8 years old, and my best friend, I would go to her place a lot, and she lived there with her mum and stepdad.
Had your parents met her parents?
My mum was very close friends with my friend's mum, and so I met my friend through mum, being friends with her mum.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've known her since I was 5 years old, and the mum met her stepfather probably when my friend was around the same age as me, 8. Yeah. And with regards to him, he groomed myself. It started off really insidious, very slowly, with say brushing past my body, no touching then, but definitely a pressure, like rubbing my back a lot, playing with my hair, to having me sit on his lap after he'd had a shower and he'd been in a dressing gown, and it would accidentally open up, so I'm sitting on his penis. And
Did you ever say, like, try to get off?
I didn't. I can. The only as a child, in a child's words, he was warm. His like body heat, warmth. No, I didn't say no. With my mum and dad had separated, and he was very close to my dad, but he stepfather, we didn't get treats at home. Very healthy living, and treat was fish and chips once a month was yay. When I went to my friend's house, there were toffee pops and there were lollies, and and he was providing them and fizzy drinks, which we didn't have at home.
And do you think that was a thing for the grooming
Absolutely.
as well, a part of?
Absolutely, yeah. Now that I'm more educated on absolutely. And I enjoyed being there. We were able to stay up late, no bedtime routine. But with that came the introduction of his stash of Playboy magazines. And
how were you introduced to that?
My friend, and I would suggest he had groomed her to come to me to say, hey, let's go into the stepdad's room and all the Playboy books were all open there, and I just giggled, like I just laughed, and yeah, and then that was sort of that, and then it went to he was a bourbon drinker and had a big bar with those swivel sticks, and the swivel sticks all were naked ladies, and yeah, so they were sort of like introduced, and that ended up being tickling with them down below. So that, and then a little bit along again, summer weather in Wellies, big old beautiful hot days outside under sprinklers, naked, and he's taking photos. And been up in a part of their house outside with him naked, lying on the ground, and my friend on one side of him and me on the other side, and he's taking our hands to play with him. Yeah, and where his house was situated was down quite some steps, and he would piggyback me up with his arms piggybacking me, but his finger will be up in between my legs, and he's tickling.
Did you ever tell anybody, or?
No, I didn't.
Or did he say anything to you about
he
not?
Did. He did.
What would he say?
He said his words were that we just want to have fun together. We don't want to upset my friend's mum. Yeah, that was all I can recall him saying. So I didn't want to upset her. She was lovely. Yeah. Yes, those words that are given to a child about a role model. Yeah, and you don't want to upset adults, and you don't. Yeah, so I didn't. Yeah. He would, if kissing goodnight, he would put his tongue into my mouth. He would take photos whenever, in very different places. Her and I in a bath together.
Would he make you have a bath together?
Yeah. Which is, bath time for kids. It's normal, isn't it? It's an everyday occurrence. So, yeah, but he would take photos on his Polaroid camera, so they were instant. Yeah, and getting Karen and her and I to kiss, and he's taken photos all those times. Trips away, something else. He would take us away to like Taupo and into motels, and yeah, photos there, and yeah, different poses.
Did you ever feel like you did, like if that opportunity came up and, there was an opportunity for you to go away to somewhere like Taupo, was there a part of you that didn't want to go for that reason?
No, it's fun. That's a holiday as a child. No. Then as sort of the next year arrived, and I was saying 9, I started pulling away from spending so much time with my friend in her household, and started sort of having a new set of friends, sort of thing. So it was a gradual sort of disconnect from her and I. And I do know now, we're both in our 50s, that at that time she was considering suicide, because she'd lost, it was her and I, it was always her and I. She wasn't close to anyone else. But one of the memories I have of feeling like, why didn't he pick me, was that a school friend of mine started being more around her than I was, and he invited her to go to Disneyland with my friend. And that little girl in me was like, oh, because it's many kids' dreams of going to Disneyland. I wasn't invited, but what happened to those two over there was part of an extended outside of New Zealand paedophile ring. So it wasn't until I left home at 16, and flatted for a bit, and then ended up flatting. My friend and I caught back up with each other after years, and we ended up flatting together. And it was only then that we started to talk about what had really gone on. Back then I started to talk about how he had touched me, and then she opened up a whole floodgate of what had happened to her. And I don't know why, what's in me, but I've always been somebody who, if there's bullying way back at school, I would approach that person and say, cut it out. We don't have a sense of justice, right and wrong. I've held that since a little girl. So I was trying to encourage her to, we have to go to the police, because who else has he done this to? And all these years have gone by. By then, 10 years, 11 years had gone by. How many other victims were there? She wasn't emotionally ready to approach the police at all. At the time I didn't understand why she wasn't, but now I am educated more, and I know that happens. So I have guilt about pressuring her then, but yeah, so I ended up ringing the police from work one day and saying that what had happened to me, and that my friend had also been abused, and then it gave some examples of what she'd been through. They took all my details down at the time, but they really needed her. And she wasn't ready then. But 2 years later, so we were by then I think our early 20s, she was ready. Yeah, and it took 3 years to get her evidence and stuff, interviews, etc. There were other victims.
Because one of the whānau that shared her story said that she was scared that there had been that much time in between that it wouldn't be able to go to trial and things like that. Did that ever cross your mind?
No, I was just so grateful that my friend was finally ready. Yeah. And she had been worried about her own little brother, what would happen to him if she told. Yeah. So yeah, big investigation. And it took 2 to 3 years, I think it was, before it went to court as a historical case. By then, my own daughter was 6 months old, so we're looking at 1996, when I actually went to trial in the Napier courts.
And what happened?
And he, all the way through with the different witnesses, speaking, every time he was saying not guilty, not guilty, and not guilty, not guilty, and then on the final day of court wrap up, he pled guilty to all charges that had been laid against him. Yeah, he got bugger all for it. Historically, that's one. Yeah, you get a lesser sentence because it is historical. And I'm not sure exactly why that is, but maybe, over all that time memories can change, and maybe, I'm not sure. But he's dead now. He was riddled with cancer, and he's passed. But as growing up in my 20s and that, because I had that need, to have him accountable in some way. My mates and then used to drink and what have you, and then we would talk about, like planning to get rid of him. Yeah, that
the anger
so
and
intense of justice, I suppose. Yeah.
Alright.
So that's sort of me. During similar age group, my own sister from a neighbour 3 doors down used to work in his garage, and this is the time where we all back in the day, well, us kids were out and about until the lights are off, or you just know when to go home, and it was safe. It was safe. We used to walk each other to school, come home, and it's the way. She, and I've got her permission to share. So this man, who was actually the father of one of our school friends, there's only 15 months difference between my sister and I. So we knew this, the son from school, from primary school. He would lubricate the end, the brush handle, and he would insert into my sister, and he would ejaculate over her. Yeah, and she didn't tell anybody either, and I asked her why was that, just recently as well, and she said that she was scared that she was going to get told off. Yeah, she has gone on. There were other incidences in her life as well.
Did you ever have anyone to teach you about inappropriate touching, about...
You'd have the school safe talk and the kindy safe talk and the school safe talk. My mum wasn't really a
I was going to say, anyone at home that...
Not
really.
But I'm sure she did, but I can't recall. So I made sure, skipping forward to my own kids, there were talks all the time, and to my daughter having special needs, to have that talk regularly at her level, it became down pat, and for her it was her way of her body is she's the boss of her body, and to the point that she's pretty quirky, to the point that even sometimes if she was going to school and what have you, and someone just went, "Hi Jade," like that, she goes, "Go away, I'm the boss of my body." But at least she was saying it, so, which sort of helped. It helped when I had a close family member living in our home who ended up abusing her. She told me, and police involved, and I'm so grateful with her needs that they allowed her an evidential evidential interview. And although she couldn't specifically say times or a date, it was still evidence, so that's there. I remember reaching out to my family. I was so angry with this person, so angry. Hurting my baby, so angry. So I pretty much burnt all the stuff outside on a bonfire, and then went to track him down, and as soon as I located him and called out his name and said we need to talk, he ran. He jumped a 6-foot fence and he was off up the road. So straight away I knew, and my daughter, I trusted her straight away. And with my study in social work, I knew when she shared with me not to question her anymore, because you just click into, you can't have leading questions with her, etc., that I need to call the police straight away and have them and Child Youth and Family and the investigators investigate her.
Why is that?
Why is that? I could have been leading questions to her, like putting words in her own mouth. This isn't just for my daughter having special needs, but maybe any child, because it can change their kōrero, what they're wanting, or their story. So, and it could be manipulated.
It's just when that happens, you just contact the police and that straight away to get them to come in.
I mean, just say, absolutely, definitely acknowledge that what they're saying is the truth. Yeah.
And then get the police and that to come in to do all that further stuff.
Yeah, and that's it would be a woman policeman, police person. Yes. So she went to counselling, but it's an area that if you have special needs, there are not many. It's very rare to find a counsellor who can counsel someone with special needs.
Oh, that's crazy, eh?
Yeah.
Did you receive any counselling
I
for
did
yours?
then. It re-triggered and rehashed the trauma I had growing up, and the breaking of trust, and huge resentment for the hurt to my own daughter. Yeah. So that took me on another road. I went back to counselling. I've got ACC accredited counselling that I can access throughout life. My sister, on the other hand, also has that, but she has also gone through the process of having some sort of monetary
Oh, yeah.
for life.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much for
That's
coming on
alright.
here and sharing your story
Thank you.
for the campaign. All right then, thank you.